Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Andre Norman. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, make sure to go back and check that out. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to join our Facebook group. We're trying to get that up and off the ground so we can create more conversation around each episode. All you have to do is tap the link in the description. Anyway, that's enough of me, and now for the rest of the interview.
So, there's a ton of negative people, and I see that they hang around together. There's a lot of positive people. But what I've also experienced a ton is that there's a lot of people that are just, they use you. They become your friend because you can offer something. They just are using. And oh, by the way, how do you know Jason Fladlin?
Jason Fladlin, I met Jason Fladlin at Genius Network. Great guy. He's one of the smartest guys I've met on the planet.
He is.
Him, Roland Frazier. I got a list.
Roland, you know Roland too?
Roland's a genius. Roland's a hands down, oh my God, genius. Jason Fladlin, hands down, oh my God, genius. I mean, some people are like Dan with coaching, phenomenal.
Yeah.
You need people who are great in your space, and Dan's one of the smartest guys I know. But you take Jason and Roland, they think in like a whole nother stratosphere.
Yeah.
Their style of thinking is nothing against anybody else. It's just like there's Michael Jordan and there's Kobe Bryant and there's LeBron James. They think in a different space. They're all up there. They're all Hall of Fame. Jason, great guy. He's like a brother to me. I go to his house. I hang out. I mean, his kids call me uncle. Jason's a great guy. Him and his wife, Molly. I mean, they're family to me. Jason's my brother. If you look at my phone, it'll say Jason Fladlin brother.
I got into selling on Amazon, which I make my living now coaching for the most part and managing Amazon brands. But it was because of Jason that I got involved with it. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I could go down the list of people who I've met. Jason saw me. We've never done business together. First off, me and Jason have never done business. Me and Dan have never done business. Me and Ben, none of these folks I've done business with. These are just friends. I don't want you to think, hey, we got all this $1 million. We're just friends. And you'll speak to people trying to use you. And if they're not willing to be your friend first, then they're not willing to talk about anything.
Okay. So, you were talking about positive attitude. I just wanted to come back and talk to you about this because I see this happen a lot. I go to a bunch of events every year. I meet a lot of people. I get to meet really great people and just kind of hang out and get to know them, become friends. And that's it. Become friends before business. But I've also been suckered a bunch of times. I feel, and I hate saying this, if you're talking to me like outside of this podcast, I wouldn't say this, but I've known a lot of people that have taken advantage of just being, like you were saying earlier, somebody's got a broken leg, you help them out. I've done that in the past to many people, and a bunch of those people have just come back and just basically used me either for money, kindness, or whatever. Does that not get you gun shy when you start meeting all these people and you're giving all, and there's these idiots that come back and just sucker punch you?
Well, one, I'm not the guy to sucker punch. If you ever read my bio before you try to sucker punch me, shame on you. But two, Joe Polish has a saying, it's actually one of his books, life gives to the giver. That's it. Life gives to the giver. And now you can quote Ben's book, Personality is Impermanent, in the sense of, I give because I want to. I get on this podcast because I wanted to. I'm saying I'm going to help my neighbor because I want to. If he appreciates this or not, or you appreciate this or not, or the next person, what I do is not predicated on you. It's predicated on me. I want to give. I want to serve. I want to help people. Not because the lights are on and people throwing me checks. It's what I want to do. Period. I do stuff for my kid without question. It's because he doesn't clean his room. I don't take that as a sucker punch. I'm saying he didn't do his homework. It's not a sucker punch. I want to buy my son a bike. I'm going to buy him a bike if he cleans his room or not. He's going to get a birthday present if he gets good grades or not. I'm saying he's coming on a family vacation regardless of his attitude the week before. I'm saying? Because I want to do this for him. So when I do stuff for people, it's not predicated on them. If you're doing it for reciprocal reasons, then you set yourself up because you have expectations. In a non-transactional deal, if you're just trying to help somebody, you help them. I don't expect my neighbor to cut my grass because I took his trash out. That wasn't the reason I did it. So if he wants to cut my grass, I'm going to tell him, no, I got somebody. No, I want to pay you back. I don't need you to pay me back. I didn't pay you anything. I did what I wanted to do. So the first question is, why are you helping these people? Why are you investing in these people? Is it what you want to do? And if you have to be honest with yourself in that space. Then secondly, when they double back, you need to take my how to read people course because I don't get scammed because I know how to read people. When they come back with the scam and the usury stuff, I can see through that and I'll sit them down and I'll explain to them, these are your motives, these are your objectives, and this is where you're off track. And I help them understand that stuff is transparent to me as far as their usury. If you are just an honest, never been in a scenario where you have to read people to that extreme, then they're going to get you. So we can give you folks the how to read people course so they won't get suckered. But it goes back to, why are you doing it? I do things because I want to do things. And if you never come back to me, it's like I see the guy at the top of the ramp when I get off the highway. I give him $1. What expectations do I have for him? None. Now, if he pulls up at my house and wants $10, the answer is no. And because I gave you $1 today, and I ride the street every day, doesn't mean I'm going to give you $1 every day. I feel like giving you $1 today. I'm going to give you $1 today. If I don't feel like giving you $1 tomorrow, I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to say, well, I gave it to you yesterday. I just don't want to today. And tomorrow I might want to. The next day I might not want. So I'm honest with me first and foremost. Then I'm clear on, does a homeless guy who I give $1 to every day have the right to pull up at my job and tell me about his electric bill? I'm not listening to that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to be overwhelmed or guilted or shamed into doing something. You can give me information, but I'm not responsible for it. So don't take the weight of the other people into your life. First off, that's step one. Their problems are technically their problems. You can assist them with their problems, but you should never take their problems onto your shoulders. You know what I'm saying? So assisting and then becoming part owner of the problem is two different things. And oftentimes they try to guilt or manipulate you into, you have to be part of this problem. Then you feel obligated to fix the problem because you're in it. And then you know you've invested who knows how much time, energy, and money into fixing a problem that was never yours. So knowing how to read people is huge in my life, and it's helped me probably get away from all the stuff that you had to go through because that's not what you do, read people. So I've never really had the people do that. And I'm sure people have come up with that intent, but then they say, well, he's not going for it.
Right.
I'm sure people want to, I'm quite sure if a mugger who mugs people turned into an alley and it turned out to be Mike Tyson in the alley, he'd change his mind. Like, no, something? Mike, can I get an autograph?
Yeah.
He's mugged the last 10 people in the alley. He comes into the alley again, it's Mike Tyson. He wants an autograph now. It's not about mugging. His whole concept changes. He's like, nah, this ain't the guy to mug. This is the guy to get autographed from and keep it moving. So people see me, and even if they don't know, they find out in short order. I read people extremely well. And I will tell them what I'm seeing and be honest with them. I say, I think you're trying to use me. Explain to me why I'm wrong.
So you would come straight out and just say that.
What are you going to do? If I think you're trying to do something foul, and I say, hey, listen, man, I know something, you'll know them. I think you're trying to get me to share this information about this thing, and I don't really feel comfortable. Then you be like, well, okay, either you're going to say no problem and let it go, or you're going to try to explain to me why I should have the conversation, which tells me that you're trying to get this information. But if I see something I don't agree with, I speak to it. I don't keep silent. This is my life. This is my being. I'm responsible for this guy. So if you come into my space or we happen to be in the same space and I don't feel comfortable speaking up for me, then who's going to? And I don't have to call you bad things. I say, hey, no, man, I'm just not really feeling this part of what's going on. Can you explain it to me better? And after you explain it, like, well, I still don't feel comfortable. Can we take that out? then if you respect me and it's about me, then you say, fine. If you say, I'm putting it in there, it's a great story, and I already know, then no, we can't do business like that, brother. I'm sorry. I appreciate you. But if you can't be concerned about my feelings, how I see things, it's one-sided, then you need to go do it by yourself.
Well, one of the other things I've noticed, just speaking to you for the first time, that you are a great storyteller. Have you always been a great storyteller?
It's a family trait. My mom is a great storyteller, not my dad. We're talkers. We grew up before Xboxes and PlayStations, so we actually had to talk to each other in the house. And there was a lot of us, and there was a lot to talk about. So there's that. And then I was illiterate for a long time, so I had to learn how to live in my head and communicate verbally. That probably helped. The last thing that made me a great storyteller, I did a de facto training that I didn't know was a training. So I did like this 30-day training. And at the end of the 30-day training, it was like, boom. It was like, it taught me to be a phenomenal storyteller. The average speaker can only tell their story. They've been trained how to tell one story, whether it's their rags to riches, their overcoming, or their resiliency, or how they won the championship. They've been trained to tell one story. I've been trained to tell one story 50 different ways because I've had 50 different audiences. One audience for me is Black boys in juvenile detention. Another audience is Black boys in a prep school. Another audience is white kids in a suburban school. Another audience is white kids in a trailer park. Another audience is prison officials. Another audience is the prisoners. So I've had to learn, I only have one story, but to tell it from different vantage points. So the person I'm speaking to, after speaking their vernacular so they can understand how it makes sense to them. So I actually train people to speak beyond their stories, what I call it.
You were mentored, and I've read this, by a nun and rabbi during an intervention. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I've been my number one mentor. My first mentor is Natan Schaefer. He's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. He was a prison chaplain. My next two mentors were Sister Ruth and Sister Kathleen, who were from the Catholic Church, who were also at the same prison. Then I got Father Martin, who's a priest from a local parish, who came in. Then when I came home, Pat Dempsey, who was a Catholic volunteer at the prison, who was the best man at my wedding. And when I came home, the first day I met a guy named Tim Allen, who was a local Baptist minister, who became my next mentor. And I just kept going down the road. I can just give you mentor after mentor after mentor.
Wow. So what were some of the lessons that you learned from these people?
Well, I'll start with Natan. Mm-hmm. And when I met Natan, again, you can't control your fate, but you can control who you are. It's like me helping my neighbor. I might help my neighbor for 6 months. Lo and behold, my neighbor might be the head of a speakers bureau. He might be the head of some company that could hire me. I don't do it for that. So I help the guy in my unit not be bullied because I don't like bullies. And then we would speak to each other. He didn't know I was like the second-ranking guy on the prison yard. So he thanked me for saving him from being bullied, white guy. Then he said, "What's your name?" We trade names. And he's like, "Hey, Dre." I'm like, "Hey, Bob." So I was T-Bob maybe twice a week walking through the prison, and he would say hi, I would say hi. No big deal. I wasn't too cool to say hi to what would be deemed somebody who's not has status. Then one day I'm walking in a program building, and I walked by a room, I saw Bob. So I stopped and went back in the room and said, "Let me go say hi to Bob." I go to say hi to Bob, and he's sitting with the guy in the car. He introduces him to me. They said they're studying. I said, "Well, can I come study with you?" They said, "Yes." I study with Bob, and lo and behold, Natan's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. Don't have them in my neighborhood, so I didn't really know what it was to identify it. But when I started studying with Natan, he taught me responsibility, accountability, forgiveness, ethics, doing better than yourself. And he taught me how to be human. I learned how to read. I learned the law. I learned substance abuse. I learned anger management. Nobody had ever taught me how to be human. Natan taught me that. And that was the lessons I took from Natan. And he is still in my life from that day to this one. We spoke probably like 3 weeks ago. I'll never forget him, because I wouldn't be here in this capacity had he not done that. And I'd have never met him had I not intervened into somebody being bullied, one, and then taking it to the next step and just having basic interaction with that person. He's a white guy, I'm a black guy, I'm over here, he's over there, but I was like, I ain't gotta say hi to him. He ain't on our team, or he ain't cool. But saying hi to somebody doesn't hurt. So by me, A, intervening, then B, is accepting basic human engagement, I got my number one mentor on the planet. And I couldn't say that's how it was going to happen, but that's how it happened. So just do the right thing for the right reasons, and you get blessed.
Now, I also noticed that you're involved with substance abuse and counseling.
Yes.
So how important, and I'm assuming that you were involved with substance abuse. Is that correct?
No, I don't drink and I don't get high.
Okay. So
I've never had addiction problems myself personally.
Okay.
Relatives, immediate family, and cousins and aunts and uncles and other folks who've had substance abuse problems. And so I've grown up around it. And living in the inner city, you're just going to see it by proxy because the inner city is flooded with drugs. However they get, there's another story. But you see alcoholism, there's a liquor store on every corner. There's drug addicts throughout the neighborhood. It's just a constant. So you grew up in the inner city, you grew up with that in your backstory. So I've never been an addict, but I've worked with people, relatives and not, and it's a huge thing. And then when I connected with Joe College, I've been helping addicts from a standpoint of like interventions from my understanding. When I got with Joe, he taught me, like Natan taught me humanity. I mean, he taught me how to be human. Joe taught me how to be kind in the sense of a new mindset around helping addiction. So you have people who try to torture, bully, shame, scream people into being better instead of listening to them and helping them process their pain and process their hurt and no judgment and being open with them and being honest with them. That just because they're addicts doesn't mean you can treat them a certain way. And so working with Joe Polish has helped me to understand on another level how to be more humane in my treatment and not saying I was rough around the edges, but it was a new technique. And it's been extremely effective in helping people transition. Because I'm the guy that comes to pull your nephew off a deathbed, off the side of a cliff. Now I have more tools and deeper understanding. That's the main thing I've learned from Joe Polish, not marketing, not advertising, but how to actually connect to people better to help them turn their lives around.
So you're still actively involved with substance abuse?
Right. So Genius Network is the number one mastermind in the world. And Joe Polish is the number one thing, aside from marketing, his number one thing is helping people in addiction. So we have a program called Genius Recovery. And I support and help the Genius Recovery movement where we go out and we teach and we share and we show how to actually help addicts with humanity, with kindness, with concern, not trying to, like, you have a lot of centers out here that gouge people, they try to manipulate and capitalize on people's pain. And Genius Recovery is about bringing quality information, real information to the folks in need, whether it's a loved one or the family thereof.
On the substance abuse side, I've seen that a ton as well, where the person is just beat into shame, and probably the worst thing that I've seen that I hate seeing is that if you have an illness, you're treated like a criminal and put into jail. I've been involved with substance abuse for quite some time. Man, the crap that I've seen over the last, I don't know, I've probably seen hundreds, if not thousands of people and been involved with it. And what's really interesting about that too, for women, how many women that you ask that are addicts that turn to prostitution? And I say that, so I find that that's probably, if I see somebody that's a substance abuse user that's a prostitute, usually they've been molested at some point in their life. Have you noticed that?
What happened? Well, I don't know. The national average used to be 1 in 4 girls are molested.
Is that right? 1 in 4?
Before high school. That's one set of issues. Now, the prostitution, because you're molested doesn't mean you become a prostitute. There's no direct correlation between the two. So you will have some messed up or some differential thoughts around sexuality as far as how you should be and could be, but molestation doesn't run you to prostitute. So that's one. It definitely leads to trauma. Now, you take the group of people who have been molested and you put them in scenarios where they don't get the trauma taken care of, it still doesn't mean you become a prostitute. Prostitution generally comes down to when you turn into addiction and you become an addict. And now, for whatever the reason, whether it was molestation, it was neglect, it was just you tried it and got stuck. Once you become an addict, Now you have to feed yourself and feed your habit. And as a female, the number one way to do that is prostitution. So it's not like, okay, because I was molested, I'm going to become a prostitute. There are addicts who are functional. There are addicts who have money to pay for their drugs, so they don't need to become prostitutes. But if you're an addict and you're a female and you don't have resources, prostitution is the most accessible way to make money. That's what that is. So you can definitely walk down that path, but it's not a direct correlation between if you're molested, you become a prostitute. No, but if you become an addict and you don't have money, prostitution becomes a viable way to get money to fund your drug habit.
What are your thoughts on addicts being thrown in jail?
Well, addicts being thrown in jail for being addicts doesn't make sense. Now, if the addict breaks into a store, if the addict kills somebody, if the addict runs somebody over, then you're an addict because now you have a criminal scenario attached to it. Your addiction doesn't excuse your criminal act. So my poverty or racism or 400 years of slavery doesn't justify criminal acts. It explains, we can kind of understand, okay, well, he can't read, his father's abusive. We can understand, but it doesn't negate a criminal act. So if you're an addict, I'm saying you shouldn't just be like, okay, we're going to give you a pass because you smoke crack or you shoot dope. And so you can commit any crime you want. So if that's the case, anybody in jail just claim to be an addict, you have to let them go because 70 to 80% of people in jail have some kind of drug-related issue. So we have to treat the person, not punish the person. But in that, if you've broken into somebody's store, there has to be some kind of something has to happen in that space. So does it need to be 30 years in prison? No. Does it need to be 10 years in prison? Not necessarily. But it goes down to the act that you've been charged with committing. And the circumstances of why you committed it should be taken into account. And then treatment, this goes to prison. Prisons in America are designed to punish and not designed for treatment. So there's very little treatment happening on behalf of an addict exclusively. And if you are an addict and you do get into treatment, you still have to live in a prison that's most likely violent. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to survive while you're going to treatment. So you're being traumatized in a violent scenario where you're trying to get treatment for past trauma. And it's just tough. So I believe addicts shouldn't just be, and you have most addicts start out prostitution charges, shoplifting charges. Majority, if not all of them, are low-level crimes or really small felonies. And there should be something other than a maximum security prison for somebody who stole some chicken out of a store to go sell it to buy crack. There should be another alternative than sending this woman to and the other thing with the female end, there might be, in the state of South Carolina, there's 21 prisons. 2 of them are for females, 19 are for males. So if you're a female, where you're going is so more restrictive than the male. There's just more options on the male side because there's just more male prisoners. So there's 2 state facilities for female, 19 for males. There might be 1 or 2 off here or there, but the numbers are just skewed male. So if you're a female and you get arrested, it's generally 1 building. Everybody from murderers to drug addicts to whatever go in this 1 building, which makes it harder to actually support that because you can't have a whole facility dedicated to just addiction because the facility doesn't exist. So it has to be within this 1 building, which is a tough assignment. If you go to a county jail and there's 15 units, 13 are for men, 2 are for women. So of the 13 for men, you can designate 2 for addiction. You can't do that on the female side because it's just not the space. So we run into logistical problems when providing treatment for females because it's not adequate with spacing in buildings and facilities. On top of most people don't want to treat addicts as addicts. They want to treat them as criminals because it makes it so much simpler.
You know, I was, again, back in the Hawaii days, there used to be a program where if you were sentenced, and this could be for misdemeanors as well as, some drug charges, but you go through a 90-day program and you'd have that option, either go to jail or go to this 90-day program. And it worked really well. They actually had a great program out there, but then all of a sudden they decided to stop it. and they stopped it completely, like not even a 30-day program, which 30-day programs don't work at all, zero. But with these 90-day programs, they cut it out. They rather bring in a private prison and put people in there. And it was just a shame. I felt really bad. And also, you probably not, I don't know if you'd know this, but meth in Hawaii has made the average person, the average teen, just a zombie. It's a shame, the epidemic that's going on over there. And nobody's really talking about it. I'm sure that's in many communities in the US as well. Anyways, and the other thing that drives me crazy right now is seeing people come in with Xanax, anti-anxiety medication that they get prescribed. I've dealt with a lot of heroin addicts. Let's just keep on heroin. I love working with heroin addicts, just being able to see them from the day they walk in to the day that they leave. I can see improvement. With Xanax, they could be in a program for 90 days or 120 days. I've never seen one person really go through the program and not still be hooked. Anyways, there's a lot going on, and I don't understand it, and I wish there was some change. Just like you with the prison reform, people have got to take a look at the substance abuse issues in the U.S., Canada as well, and make these changes, because it's just not a fair system at all right now, and too many people are dying from it.
Well, right now, prisons and program is based on finances. Poor people go to jail. That's it. Poor people go to jail. That's the system we have in America. If you're poor, you're like 99% more likely to go to prison than somebody who has money. So we can commit the same exact crime in the same exact city on different sides, and we'll get the same exact bail, hopefully, but you can afford it, I can't. So you go home, I stay in jail. Why did you get to go home? Because your family has money. Why do I stay in jail? Because my family doesn't have money. You get to hire a lawyer. I got to get a public defender. So you're like 100 times more likely to get a better outcome, because I got a lawyer with 300 other cases and I'm sitting in jail. You have a lawyer that just works for you and you're at home. So the scenario is drastically different. You come to court in a suit and a tie. I come to court in an orange jumpsuit and chains. So it's just the whole imagery and the whole system is predicated on right now, if you have money, you will do better in court, period. There's not a lot to that. So we can have that. Why is it that way? There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of discussions, but prison, courts, criminal justice is based on if you have money. If you have money, you go home, period. That's it. So I can't pardon my son as President Trump is about to do for his kids. I'm not even mad at him. He's going to pardon his kids preemptive. I don't know if it's legal or not. He's going to preemptively pardon his kids before they walk out of D.C. That's a great dad move. Forget about your politics. From a dad, that's a great. I wish I could preemptively pardon my son for the next 20 years, because I sure enough would. As a dad, I am not upset at that at all. He is taking care of his kids. You know what I'm saying? Politically, there's 1,000 opinions. I don't have a political opinion. As a dad, that's great. I can't do that. I can't preemptively pardon my son from what he might do or have done over the next 5 to 10 years. It's just not, that's what money can do for you, that you can preemptively pardon your kids. And that's what it is. People who've gotten pardons in the last 90 days, I'm going to get them over the next 60 to 30 days, are mainly going to be people who have relationships with that administration. And it happens with every administration. And those are the people who've been able to hire lawyers, advocates, and lobbyists to say, hey, you need to come look at this guy and give him a pardon. So even the poor people who get pardons, somebody lobbied for them. So you have to have a lobbyist or a lobby group. So if I'm just poor and I don't have a lobbyist and I don't have nothing, I'm just going to sit here. And that's poverty and prison coalesce. They go hand in hand.
There's a lot of people that are affected by your reform using your system. So let's take South Carolina, that this system was initially started. Because they're using the system and now they're implementing it, where you're saying that there's less violence, it's a better overall system right now. Are you seeing that the sentences are being reduced? Because the trauma is being reduced?
No. What we're doing is what people don't generally understand is there's multiple parts to the criminal justice system. The first end are the police. The police are the people who arrest you. So the police arrest you, that's one agency. They're standalone. When they arrest you, they charge you with whatever they write up in the paper. Then they turn you over to the court system, which is a completely different agency. Mm-hmm. Now, the court system will try you and charge you, whatever they're going to do. They'll take the charges from the police station, and the courthouse processes those charges. You go to trial, let's say you're found guilty. Now, the courthouse turns you over to the prison system, which is, again, a completely separate agency. The prison system is tasked and charged with holding you. So you will be held in this prison for a determined amount of time, and you're there. After the prison piece, here comes the parole office. The parole office will come in and say, you know something? They gave you 25 years. We're going to let you out after 17, but now you're on parole. So now you have parole or probation officer, which is a completely separate agency from the prisons, from the district attorney, and from the police. So you're dealing with 4 distinct separate agencies that they technically connect, but they overlap, but they don't connect. So what I'm doing in a prison has zero effect on the police officer that arrests you, the DA and the judge that prosecutes you and sentence you, and the prison in which you go. I don't get you into the end. So I'm like the emergency room doctor. They shot you out, and if you got shot, they put you in the ambulance, they drove you to me, I patched you up. Now you're saying, well, does me patching people up affect the shooters and affect the crime in the street? Technically, no. So what I'm doing is for this specific space, it can grow to that. But at the stage we are now, how do you give somebody credit for being in a program that they've never been in a program? So if I'm before you as a judge, and I'm saying, well, I robbed somebody, and you can't say, well, I'm going to give him less time because this program exists that he's not in. So you get credit for things that you do or have done. And unfortunately, the front end part of the program, the trial part, we haven't engaged with them with the Academy of Hope right now. We're dealing with people who are actively in prison or being released. So if you were in our program and you got released and you're in our outside program, now technically you shouldn't be getting rearrested if you're in the program. So the objective of our program is you don't get rearrested. So you shouldn't be before the court, again, facing charges. But the guy who is going most likely had never been in the program. So it comes to the scenario where how do we create programs for people before they hurt somebody and create victims? We don't want to keep servicing people after they've hurt somebody and created a victim. We want to be able to service them on the front end. And the way you do that is preemptive. You want to go to the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools where we know these kids are coming from. If you go to a state prison, I guarantee you 99.9% of people came from public school. Simple. In California, all the people that got locked up, the number one source of people that came from, Los Angeles. Second might be Oakland, wherever you go down the line, we know where they're coming from. But we just have to say we know where they're coming from in the state of New York. I guarantee you the state system, which probably has 50, 60,000 people, I guarantee you a lion's share of them came from New York City. And almost all of them came from the public school system. So we know where they're coming from. So it's not rocket science. At some point, we say, do we want to stop the school to prison pipeline? Because we know where they're coming from. We know where they're ending up. Let's service them on the front end. Because if you give me a 7-year-old in first grade, I tell you what he wants. He wants a peanut butter jelly sandwich and a hug. You give me a 22-year-old kid coming out of jail after 5 years in maximum security prison, he needs extreme therapy, a job training, and a place to stay. So it's far more costly and intensive to help the person on the back end, where for a sandwich, playing catch in the park, and a hug, I can stop you from ever going to prison. So we have to start looking at it from the opposite end on how do we stop them from going instead of fixing them once they get there.
All right. Do you have any stats on people reoffending after going through the program?
My program?
Yeah.
My program is not really designed for people who get out. My program is designed for people who are staying in. We're trying to change the culture of the prison. So mine isn't a reentry program like you need to do this before you go home. Our program is focused on taking violence out of prisons. So that's the focus of this program. There's a lot of violence inside of prisons, and our program is focused on that. So we have stats on decreasing violence. We have stats on no weapons. We have stats on use of force. And we have those stats. But as far as people going home, that's not our target. There's other agencies that target on helping you get job ready, this ready, that ready, this ready. That's not our focus. Our focus is put down a knife, put down a weapon, don't attack somebody, and then help other people not attack folks. That's our focus.
Got it. I was listening to a recent interview you had on David Never Sleeps and got a quote that I like you to talk about. Trying means nothing. Accomplishment means everything. I thought that was a great quote. Can you talk a bit about that?
Trying means nothing. For some reason, somebody came up with this thing, just try. Just try means get in there. Okay, you can say you tried it. But trying as adults isn't the thing. I don't measure intention. I measure results. Your intent is your business. The result is my business. So the fact that you tried, if this is a business scenario, that was in a business context. If this is a business scenario, I don't care that you tried. I care that you got it done. So if somebody's working for you, they come back and say, how come the wheels aren't on the tire? I tried, but I just couldn't get it. But this guy needs to take his car out. I tried means nothing. People pay for results. I can't go into a store and order a hamburger and get something else. I tried to get the right sandwich on there. No, give him results. So people believe trying is a substitute for winning. It's an excuse. It becomes an excuse. And I don't believe in excuses. I'm saying there's realities, there's facts, and then there's excuses. Excuses have nothing to do with reality and facts. It's just the reason why you didn't want to get up and get it done. So, yeah, trying to me is meaningless. I'm saying, did you get it done? That's my question. Did you get it done? Yes or no? And if it's yes, cool. If it's no, can we go back and find a way to get it done? But so often people just say, I tried, and that's acceptable. It's like the second place in the trophies for everybody who shows up now.
Yeah.
You get a trophy for winning. You get a smaller trophy if you lost, everybody else gets nothing. Now they give ribbons to everybody. You showed up, here's a ribbon. It takes what we need. I got a whole room full of ribbons, but I never won anything. I mean, if that's the case, I might go in 50 pageants or 50 tournaments. I got 50 ribbons, and I came in dead last every time. So the fact that you tried is nice. It's admirable. It's all that stuff. But in business, trying does not substitute results.
Perfect. Now, you also provided a quote a little earlier today. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, quote I kind of live by because I run into people all the time. And like you said earlier, you would have had a hard time believing the things that I've achieved. And I tell people, I do the impossible for a living. And for the record, I've done it multiple times. And I say that because I wasn't supposed to be alive at 18, but I was. I was never supposed to turn my life around in prison and go to Harvard, but I did. I wasn't supposed to be on a task force working for the White House and the president, but I was. You know what I'm saying? And all the things that I'm doing are deemed impossible. It is impossible for Andre to go from maximum security prison to working at the White House. It is impossible for Andre to go as a gang leader and now go back and run prison. It's impossible to go from 7 dead people to 1 fist fight in 2 years. These things are all technically impossible. And I don't believe in impossible because I do it now I tell people, because I kept doing what was deemed impossible. So my thing is I do the impossible for a living.
All right, now we're going to get into some interesting stuff too. I'd love to hear this. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about this. So every guest that we have on this podcast, there's nobody sitting in front of a Lamborghini waving, cash. We find that there's so many people that have gone through so many struggles, and just your whole story is a struggle. But what was your biggest hurdle? How did you get over it? And what did you learn from it?
My biggest hurdle My biggest hurdle. I know it. It's not even a long thought. I had to learn not to be a quitter. When my dad left the house, he taught me to quit. And I didn't understand it at 8 years old and 9 years old, that that's what he taught me. That's what I ingested into my life. I embraced, but I quit everything. And when I finally got to the point of wanting to turn my life around, I looked back at my life and all the things that I didn't achieve. And I asked myself, why didn't I can do these things? And the one theme was, I quit. So I started asking myself, why are you quitting everything, Andre? And it went back to, I learned to quit from when my dad left. And I thought it was okay. And it was my excuse or justification for dealing with hardships or things that just weren't easy. So I said, when I went to counseling, I didn't need help with anger. I didn't need help with finance. I needed help with quitting. So I went and got help for my quitting problem. And once I hurdled that and I got that under wraps, life became easy. It became doable because I just knew what it was. I was going to stay the course. So for me, my number one issue was quitting. And when I finally got over that hurt, I had to tell myself the truth, which was the hard part. Then I had to ask for help, which was even harder. And I had to actually do what they told me to do, which was even harder. Then I had to live it out for like multiple years, which got even harder. It never got easier. It was supposed to get easier. Every step got harder. But in the end, I won. I'm no longer a quitter. And for me, I can do anything now. That's why I can do the impossible for a living, because I'm not a quitter. Before, I couldn't even make my bed because I ain't gonna do this stupid. I'd come up with a justification why not to do it or follow through. So for me, not being a quitter is huge. That is the crux of everything. And everything that I do now, I go in knowing that I'm gonna get through to the other side.
So when you said you went for counseling for this, was it counseling or did you find really great mentors?
No, I went to mental health counseling.
Okay.
I had a mental health issue because the trauma I suffered resulted in the way I was thinking. It impacted the way I was thinking and the way I was living. So I needed counseling, therapy, professionals. I had real problems. I didn't have fake problems. I had real problems. And it made me to do some real things that weren't good. So I need to get somebody who was not my buddy, not my pal, not somebody who just happened to want to care about me. I needed a trained professional who was going to help me get through what has been ruining my life. This is my life. This isn't like a weekend event. This is my life. So I went and got the best person humanly possible that was available to me. And I helped them by being honest with myself. Instead of them having to dig through 5 months of what's troubling Andre, I went in the room and said, I know my life better than anybody. And I had to just write it out and sketch it out and then say, look at the patterns. And I'm not a therapist, but I was able to look through and say, I've had a lot of opportunities. I wish I could come on and say, nobody loved me. They locked me in closets. Nobody cared. That's not true. I had tons of opportunities. I just blew them all because I quit. And it became clear to me that I had a pattern. And then I didn't know how to break the pattern down or really get to the root of it. The counselor helped me get to the root of it. But I realized I had a chance at a band. I had a chance at leadership. I had a chance at a track team. I could have a list of the things that I had. And I said, well, why didn't I stay in the band? I quit. Why didn't I run track for real? I quit. Why didn't I play football? I quit. It was just that same theme of quitting. The only thing I didn't quit was negativity. Because you don't really have to do anything. You just kind of have to be there. There's nothing really to do with negativity, but just show up. You understand? So yeah. I went to professional counseling for the record, and I advocate professional counseling for anybody who thinks that they might have a problem, because you get one life, and don't play with trying to fix this. This is a complex thing, this little brain. And I wanted somebody who knew what they were doing, and I had to go in and tell the truth to the best of my ability. And they helped me tell from my truth to the real truth. That's the jump. There's your truth, then there's the real truth.
Right.
You can make that jump, then you'll get better.
Well, how long did it take, to get past the quitting part?
I'm still in counseling. I'm still in counseling. So this is not a weekend thing or a 6-month thing. Those things are embedded in my genetics. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with this man and he taught me this thing, and it's like, it doesn't go away. I can learn to deal with it. Once it's like my addiction. Once I say it's no longer a problem, it becomes a problem. So I still go to counseling. Now I don't need like a full-on therapist. And I've gotten, 29 years into this. So I kind of have a system, and I can go to counselors and mentors now because we've done the heavy work. The doctor operated, now I'm dealing with rehab. Different. So the doctor doesn't need to come to rehab, but you have to go through the doctor first. I went to the mental health therapist first for almost 7 years. I went to therapy inside. When I first came home, I got a mental health therapist on the outside. And for like the first 2 years, I went to mental health counseling once or twice a week on the outside. Inside, it was free. Outside, I had to pay for it. But I went to mental health counseling with my sister, Wendy Champagne, and I went to her office twice a week for almost 2 years because it was important that what worked to get me out, I didn't quit doing. So many people do something that gets them to a place, then they stop doing it. Well, mental health counseling helped me get out. So why would I stop doing it?
Right. Okay, well, let's go the other side now. What do you feel has been your greatest success?
My greatest success. Okay, I'm going to take my son out of it because that's too easy. I'm saying my greatest success is I'm still here. I'm actually still here. Not defied the odds, I've redefined the odds. The fact that I work in these places and move in these spaces and I know the people I know and I'm received just says that it only gets greater. Somebody's going to come behind me and they're going to take my story and elevate their story 10 times higher. So my greatest success is helping other people succeed. Success is not a success without a successor. So I need to go back and help other people succeed as well. So my greatest success is that here I am, 21 years removed from prison. I have my own company, but I still go to prison almost every day. I do outreach with people in need every day. And my greatest success is no longer just Black folks. I help everybody. There was a time I helped people that look like me because I understood them. Now I help people. I'm pro-Black. Don't get this twisted. No. Andre's pro-Black. My mom's Black. My dad's Black. My kid's Black. My grandparents are Black. I live in the hood all day. But I help everybody. So my greatest success is I've gotten to a place where I can see people as people. I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up people were people. I grew up people were Black, white, people were good or bad. I'm saying now people are people. And so I guess that would be a great success for me that if I could pass something on, if you can ever get to a place that just people are people. They have histories, they have culture, they have ethnicities, but people are people. I'm not judgment free, but I'm way better than where I was when I started off.
That was an awesome answer. I wasn't expecting that, but thank you for that. Well, we're winding down to the end of the podcast, and we always like to ask our guests one question, and is that if you know a guy.
Do I know a guy?
Yeah, just any guy.
Listen, I got to pick one guy.
Your most interesting guy that you know.
That's not fair.
Well, you can provide 2 or 3 if you like, but at least one.
My number one guy in the town who's in Israel. You know what I'm saying? My next number one guy is my son who's in London. I don't know if he's probably too young to do this part. Can you do this with my son?
Sure.
Oh, listen. I would be ecstatic if you interviewed my son. You know what I'm saying? That's my greatest accomplishment. And I had help. He has a mom. So I'd love for you to interview Brooks Elliott. That'd be phenomenal.
Okay.
And, but if I had to give you a guy right now, an adult, who's not personally connected to me as a family member, I would say David Stans. You quoted him earlier from the podcast. I met David when I moved to Atlanta. He started out, and I'm not going to give his story. David Stans.
Very good. Well, I can't wait to reach out to David and your son, and we'll get a podcast going. But Rich told me that this isn't going to be a 1-hour podcast. It could go on for a day. And I agree. I think we just hit the tip of the iceberg. But anyways, Andre, it has been a real pleasure. How do people get a hold of you, or if they're interested in your courses, where can they reach out?
Okay, I think my name on the thing is at Andre Norman.
Yep.
That's my Instagram.
Okay.
This is my website, andrenorman.com. You can always go there and send me an email. My Facebook is Andre Norman. My LinkedIn is on. All my social media stuff is my name.
Perfect. Nice and simple. There we go.
And if you wanted to email me, it's admin at Andre Norman. But that's on the website.
Okay, got it. Well, thanks a lot and keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you.
All right. See you, Andre.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, guys and gals. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review on YouTube or on any podcast app of your choosing, or really anywhere. I'll even take it in my DMs. Thanks in advance. Make sure to tune in next week for our interview with Scott Mayo. Scott is a musician based in LA. He's one of those guys that's played with pretty much everyone you can think of. I think he even slips in a cool story about Mick Jagger in there somewhere. So you obviously don't want to miss this one. Anyway, that's enough of me, and I'll see you then.